Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
This is the latest disclosure, a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Wait a minute, something's happening. Some shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And it's time. It's Tuesday. It's time for After Hours AM Deeper Cuts. My name is Greg Bakken, and as always with me, I have the very lovely Joel Sturgis. Joel, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing lovely, like always.
That's good. You know what? You know what's exciting about tonight?
What's that?
Well, that's just it. We have Robert Sullivan's going to be our guest. He's going to join us, I think, around 7:30 or so.
Yeah.
And we know him from Cinema Symbolism. Try and say that when you have like five lonely blondes in you. And we're going to talk about Cinema Symbolism 2 because there was a Cinema Symbolism 1 as well as other books he's written, and we're going to be talking a lot about the symbolism in films, which I think is going to be very exciting. Joel, I mean, what better than that? Quite honestly,
exactly. We had him on the show about a year and a half ago, maybe even a little bit longer, to talk about Cinema Symbolism number 1. And so this is a return topic, and we have had him on. Of course, I will also be putting the first show he was on up for download right along with this one. So anyone that may not have heard him can get both shows all at one time and get the full load between number 1 and now number 2, and maybe fill in all those gaps for all you movie buffs out there.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun, and that's just it. I mean, and I think it's kind of funny actually that it's classic film right there when you have a sequel to your book, just like films have sequels all the time. So we're going to be talking about Cinema Symbolism 2. That's going to be starting at around 7:30, I think, is when we're going to get to him. And you know what? I think that's great. And you and I talked before we started the show. I'm not a movie buff the way that you are, Joel.
Oh my God,
enjoy it.
I love movies.
I know you do, and that's going to be fun to kind of listen to you guys, and I'll chime in with stuff. I working in advertising, I've always been very interested in the symbolism in advertising. Such as like Coca-Cola bottles that one of the bubbles in the bottle resembles a naked woman, that sort of thing.
So you are the man responsible for some of the subliminal messages out there, is what you're saying. Come on.
I'm responsible for nothing, and I actually really mean that. In general, nothing. So there is that, to be sure. It's all I'm going to say. It's great to be back this week. It's I don't know. Please tell me.
I don't mean to step all over you or crash your party. No pun intended.
Wow.
But why don't you tell people?
Nice.
I got a lot of emails last week at the afterhoursam@gmail.com. wondering what was going on, because a few people saw, of course, your post on Facebook, but a lot of people didn't. And when I did respond, I explained, but we're all glad, number 1, you're okay. But man,
Thank you.
And looking at the pictures, I'll let you take it from here. What happened?
Well, I guess the story here is that I got in a car accident on Tuesday and ended up my car got crunched front and back because it was part of a daisy chain of kind of a chain reaction, if you will, of an accident with some vehicle just not paying attention and just ramming into all of us, and then ended up it was going so fast, apparently, allegedly, that it ended up at the front of the line of cars, because that's where it ended up. We had somebody who wasn't part of the accident stay behind because he thought he wanted to make sure the police knew that this gentleman who hit everyone, because he was at the front of the line suddenly, that he was responsible for all of it. And so,
Man.
like you said, I was very lucky. I went to the hospital on Tuesday only to be looked at, but people went to the hospital and ended up staying there for a little bit. And so obviously I was very lucky. I need a new car, I believe, but if that's all that's problem, then that's not a problem at all.
Well, and we all get attached to our vehicles, me included. My old truck, You've seen my old truck. I will not give up my old truck for a lot of reasons. Number one, it was my dad's, so there's a lot of sentimental value. But number two, when you find a vehicle that fits you, you love it. Yeah. You know what I mean? You just fall in love with that vehicle, and that's what your Ford was to you. It really was more of a member of the family than it was a machine.
Well, it was. And, the problem is when you say stuff like that, right away people put up memes from Liberty Mutual Brad car, that woman in front of the Statue of Liberty. You named him Brad. No, I never named my car anything, and certainly wouldn't be Brad.
Mine's a Wookiee.
What's your name of your car?
Wookiee. No, I'm kidding. I didn't name my truck. My truck could be a grumpy old man if it was anything.
Yeah, you did. You named it. Now you gotta tell us what you named
I did. Its name is Ed.
That truck, which I know has a lot of sentimental value to you, like you said, I've seen it. I feel like if I look at it too long, it will fall apart.
It might. It might just do that. It might, but that thing is actually more solid than you think, Greg.
Oh no, I'm sure it is. I mean, I was able to sit in and it didn't fall apart. So I was.
Little do you know how close you were to death in that old truck. But no, my truck. Most of our listeners know. My dad died at the age of 63, and so that was a really hard. And your dad is no longer with us either, which is really hard no matter what age. It doesn't matter what age.
You never get over it. No,
I inherited his truck, and it happens to be a 2004 GMC Sierra, and I just cannot give it up. And number one, they're great trucks. They really are. And number two, when it has sentimental value, it's hard to give the damn thing up. Even though everyone said, trade that thing in already. Well, number one, I never gave money for it. Let's just be honest. I'd never get nothing for that truck on trade-in value.
No.
And number two, you drive it till the wheels fall off. That's just what you do.
That was what I was planning on doing with Brad. I mean, my car. Well,
Brad. You did name it Brad.
No, I did not. But that's what I was planning on doing. And talking about sentimental value, and this is a true story, I still have on my voicemail, I've been trying to find a way to record it, a voicemail message from my dad. And it's like I can't delete it because it's his voice. You know what I mean? And it's just like one of those things that you can't get past. And for those who can, for those who are like, oh no, it's not a big deal, good for you. That's great.
Yeah.
For someone, a sad sack like myself who is very sappy, then this stuff means a lot, and it will always be of great interest, obviously.
Let me tell you a sad sap story right now. My dad, when he was alive, he used to chew Copenhagen. And I don't advocate chewing, but that's what he did. He was of that generation.
No, because you're more of a Coke guy.
I'm more of a Coca-Cola guy. I don't snort it anymore. I do drink it. Forever I thought Coca-Colas were snorting. That would explain the burn in the nose. But getting back to my story, I did realize that Coca-Cola was for drinking after all these years. But he left an empty can in the glove box of Copenhagen. Okay, empty. It's marked like 2003 or something on it. And I keep that in the glove box, right? And one day, bless her heart, my wife decided she was going to show me some love and clean my truck for me.
Oh, boy.
I go into the glove box, and it's missing. And I looked at her, and I said, well, I really appreciate what you did. Thank you so much. But where is this Copenhagen can? Well, it was garbage. I threw it away. Oh, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might be just that to you. I know how weird that sounds. It really does sound weird, me saying it. It really does, so don't get me wrong. So anyone that emails me going, you're nuts, I probably am, just a little bit. But that just has a little bit of sentimental value. Even the little Copenhagen can.
I would have done the same thing, 100%. I would have done exactly the same thing. Now, did you get it back, or did it just end up going into...
She did get it back for me. I did find it, so I did get it back. So no harm, no foul. You know, no. I was getting ready to throw a fit. You know, no, I wasn't going to throw a fit, but I was going to pout. And that is the only way that I can get my point across, to pout.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm right there with you, and you know, it's very interesting to see how we hold on to things and all that, and it's just how it is. And for those of you who are like, well, that's silly, but you have both of your parents, you just wait. That's all I'm going to say. You just wait.
Yeah, and you know, I actually, like you, still have a voicemail from when he was alive, and I did record it. I did get off the phone. And it is on my computer, and once in a while I'll fire that up just to listen. Yeah. But, you know, it's tough. It is tough. And then our other host, as everyone knows, Eric Olson, he lost his father recently. Yeah. And he was well in his 80s, and it still stings as much as my dad is 63. So I don't think it matters the age of you or your parent. I think no matter what, it still hurts. So, you know, anyone that's grieving right now, we're right there with you. And we know what it's like, because there are a lot of grieving people right now. You know, a lot of friends on Facebook are going through a lot of hard times, and just want to let everyone know, hey, we're here for you.
Absolutely. And in fact, let's move away from sadness and talk about something we can all enjoy, which is the dead, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's to me what I always like to do when I'm down and out, and just
think about dead people.
We talk about more dead people. Absolutely.
Why not? Why?
But Joel, not just dead people, celebrity dead people.
Well,
that's where it's at.
They do make for the best stories.
They really, really do. Nothing like a dead celebrity kind of spruce things up around here. So what I got for you tonight, Joel, if I may, I have 10 spooky celebrity ghost sightings.
Please, we love spooky sightings.
That's right. So as you know, it's always sad when a celebrity passes away, but sometimes these strong-willed, vibrant personalities live on long after they have shuffled off this mortal coil. Here are 10 famous folks reportedly still hanging around even though they were no longer with us. So we start, of course, with the king of rock and roll. We're talking Elvis Presley.
He's still alive. I saw him working when we were in Sauk Center at the Palmer House. I swear to God, I saw him at that Walmart we were at. I'm thinking he's living in a Sauk Center working at Wally.
And stays at the Palmer, right?
He does. How did you know?
Well, because I saw him, right? He was the one that's running up and down the floor when you're trying to sleep.
Well, he did. He only went up to him and went, "Hey there, Greg. How can I help you?
Uh-huh.
Are you looking for a voice recorder?"
They had to find him because he was the only one old enough to be able to find an analog tape recorder that we wanted.
Yeah, not just a tape recorder. A tape recorder from the great beyond.
Which neither of us used, if I'm not mistaken.
We did not use. I used the one I got, but yeah, I don't think he cracked open yours. It was so dusty. I'll never forget the dust on that box. But Elvis handed it to us. No, it wasn't Elvis. It was a small guy named, I think his name is Guido. And so he handed us the tape.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, and here's why it could not have been Elvis, because the king of rock and roll is one busy spirit. Presley is known to I was going to say taunt, which he might. Well do.
Look at the hips.
Yeah, to haunt Graceland, as well as appearing to stagehands in his famous white sequins getup at the Vegas Hilton, where he used to hold frequent performances back in the 1970s. Elvis has also made a ghostly appearance at the old RCA recording studios from the 1950s, of course, right? Which is the site where he recorded his first hit, Heartbreak Hotel. Even though it's not a recording studio anymore, the building is used as a TV studio for music-related productions. Many workers have reported strange occurrences anytime someone brings up Elvis, such as unexplained noises on the sound systems and lights going out.
Really?
That's a bit convenient, isn't it?
It really is. It really is really convenient. And I don't know. Do you think the king of rock and roll is gonna hang around those places, or where do you? I would imagine he'd be at Graceland.
If there's anywhere, I would say that, in my opinion, Graceland is where it's at, right?
I would. It's funny you mention that because I was actually given, and I don't know if I should play this now or not at all, the Elvis tapes.
Tapes of what?
Elvis, his last conversations.
Oh, I see what that is.
I have those, but it's too long. One day I will play them. And they're interesting because he's talking about peanut butter banana sandwiches,
of course,
and his love of Dayglow Elvis things that you can get at the truck stop.
Well, yeah, that would be very interesting to hear those. Absolutely. So, Marilyn Monroe. That's all I have to say about that. Moving on.
Well,
she's the next one, right? So. The blonde starlet is known to haunt the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, which, by the way, if there's a place I could go and investigate at, the Roosevelt Hotel would be pretty amazing. Have you ever been in there?
No, I've never had the opportunity. Have you?
Stunning. Yes,
really?
It's stunning. Yes, it's beautiful and it's ornate. There's a lot of it. It opens up on the inside really nicely. It doesn't look like it would from the outside, and They probably won't let a weirdo like me in there to investigate, but I'd love to. I'd love to do it.
Yeah, damn restraining orders. But yeah, I'd love to get in there as well. And but now there is some people that believe that she is still amongst us. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And B, that her ghost is actually being known. We'll get to that. But C, that she was murdered too. That it was not a suicide. There's a lot of facets to Marilyn.
Oh, yeah.
That may or may not be true.
Absolutely. So, she at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, she likes to scare the bejesus out of poor unsuspecting guests by appearing to them in full-length mirror. The ghost also gets around too. She's been spotted hanging out by her tomb at the West Side Memorial Cemetery in Los Angeles, another place I'd like to investigate because that's where so many celebrities are. The belief that ghosts like to appear in the place where they passed away seems to be true in her case. Marilyn has also made her ghostly presence known in the very house where she fatally overdosed on sleeping pills in what the coroner would go on to call a probable suicide. Boy, I've never really thought that it was a suicide personally. I always thought that it was a murder.
Do you think the Kennedys knocked her off?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that there's something to do with that, absolutely.
I've heard that as well. I guess there's some compelling evidence to that vein because I think that we posted it on America's After Hours AM group over there, Facebook, where we put a new article up about why they think that she was probably murdered instead of suicide.
Oh, there's a ton of reasons why. I mean, it just makes, that's what's great about conspiracy theories like that. It's like everyone has their own take on it, and
exactly.
I just always thought that she was murdered. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of lean that way as well, sir. So who's next? Who's the restless soul that's next?
I'm gonna jump a little bit because this is in the same vein too. George Reeves, who played Superman in the 1950s, he still reportedly haunts his home where he allegedly committed suicide and was possibly murdered, depending on who you believe. Once again, I believe he was murdered.
I do too, and isn't it weird that Christopher Reeves and George Reeves both die?
Yes.
No, but the name Reeves.
No,
could be a curse. Could be a curse amongst that too. Just a little quick segue.
Yeah.
With Superman. But yeah, now George Reeves, how does he appear to people?
Well, so they say they've heard strange noises coming from the room that used to be George's bedroom. Okay. And one time when a film crew was shooting in the house for a documentary, he appeared to them in full Superman attire.
Wow.
At no charge. No. And because if he was over at the Hollywood Chinese theater, there's a ton of people dressed as superheroes out there. He could have charged.
Yeah. Well, why do they always show up in clothes, though, the dead? You always hear about ghosts wearing clothes. I wonder why they're so modest.
Well, we read, what was that? A couple weeks ago, we read about things that mediums get when they're talking with the dead.
Sure.
And one of them is after someone felt comfortable with this one, they started showing up without clothes.
The full Monty.
Yeah.
I'm here. Look at me. Just hanging around. And I do mean hanging around.
Wonder if you have the opportunity to make yourself look better.
I sure hope you do, because, I want to do that. I want to make myself look better. Come on. Be like, look at my six-pack. Instead of the keg I have.
Right. If I did that, they'd be like, well, that's not Greg.
They'd be like, who the hell are you again? It's me. No, it's not. No. You have too much hair.
That's it. So what about Lucille Ball?
What about Lucille? Well,
So-
she was a strange character in life, so I'd imagine she'd be a strange character in death.
So owners of the house where the I Love Lucy stuff passed away at the age of 77, complains that there's been spooky happenings, broken windows, furniture rearranging themselves, the constant smell of an ashtray. I added that one myself.
Yeah, she was quite the smoker.
She was quite the smoker. Apparently, cigarette companies, they lost a lot of profits the year that she passed away.
They did. But what was funny is because Winston used to be one of the sponsors of Lucille Ball back in the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember that because I just happened to catch an old one. I want to say it was on Retro TV or one of the channels. Happened to catch a Lucille Ball, and Winston comes along. Hey, do you enjoy a good smoke? Well, you can sell like Lucille Ball if you smoked 6 of our packs a day. Yes. You could utter phrases like, hi there, how you doing?
Yeah,
and other
like,
great things.
I'm Lucille Ball. You're like, oh my God.
I don't smoke often, but when I do.
It's all the time. So they say that it sounds like there's a party going on in the attic. Loud voices are often heard emanating as if they were talking over loud music. So, heck, I would love to actually meet her.
It sounds like a frat house.
Yeah.
More than it does her an elderly woman's house.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I had a feeling that she was something right up until the end,
I think she was. I think she was a fireball.
Yeah, very much so.
Lucy, you got some explaining to do.
Yeah, I think that she got rid of the dead weight. So, yeah.
But yeah. All right, who's next in the old shopping block, as it were?
Lon Chaney Sr.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Not as famous as Junior, but, still famous.
Famous enough, though, in the sense that he was obviously in the 1925, later remade 1929, with the same footage, Phantom of the Opera, which is one of my favorite films. I'm very intrigued by it because there's such history to it. He passed away in 1930, but much like his character, the Senior Chaney is still hanging around to this day. His spirit's been seen at Soundstage 28, which is where they filmed Phantom of the Opera. But here's a kicker to that soundstage, which had been built in the 1920s, had been around forever, actually housed the set for the Opera House in there for all those years, was torn down, I think, last year or the year before. To make way in Universal Studios for a new ride for their for their amusement park.
Watch this Fast and the Furious or something. Some
BS.
Yeah, exactly. Now ride the Fast and the Furious. We're gonna get rid of the Phantom of the Opera, which was iconic in Hollywood, to get you guys in.
Yeah, it bums me. They said that they've taken all that set pieces that are historic and of great value, and they said that they've stored them and they're going to take them out on to tour them around the country. Sure. I've never heard about it again. I don't know what they did, if they actually kept the pieces or destroyed them or what.
They toured them on eBay.
Yeah, right. There we go. You mean Phantom of the Opera could be yours for $10,000?
Yeah, for a low price of your soul.
Right. Well, I can afford that at least. Let's see. What else does this guy do? Let's see. Back when it was around, Soundstage 28, It rumored that his ghost likes to make appearances wearing a cape on the stage, and has also been blamed for the lights going on and off by themselves, as well as doors that open and close for no reason whatsoever. No word on whether he breaks into chorus of Music of the Night. Well, of course he wouldn't, because those are two separate productions. But I'm not going to mince words over this.
I wouldn't. It's not worth it. Mincing the words is tough, and I wouldn't do it personally. No. But that's just me.
No, you're right.
Yeah, but no, it's so iconic. Phantom of the Opera, right?
Yeah,
and he was so attached to that production. It would make sense that he'd come back for that.
Yeah, I mean, it would. I mean, it's very interesting to see if he actually really did or not. I mean, that place was creepy. I mean, I've actually been through there once, and that was it's just, there's something very much about that, and that's one of the reasons why I love the film, because the atmosphere is undeniably one of the best, in my opinion, of all time, for being a silent film, and everything is just fantastic.
Oh, I would agree. I mean, they don't make them like that anymore.
No.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really make movies that really like old Hollywood films, because that's what that was, the old Hollywood film. They don't really make them that way anymore. And
not at all.
And that's kind of unfortunate, because, like look at Gone with the Wind. I mean, great big productions. You don't see that so much anymore at all.
Well, at least not done with practical effects, right?
No,
I mean,
and
it's all CG.
Exactly. It's not like, giant, like you said, productions. It's more of a, more watered down productions now.
Well, and Gone with the Wind is a great example. And the Great Fire, when they had the fire that went through everywhere, they actually burned down a backlot, basically. Now it would just be probably all CG. So.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely correct. So it's strange how small Hollywood has gotten at the same time. In scope and size of the productions. They're nowhere near as big as they once were. So,
no.
you know what I mean? And you're a TV guy. I mean, you get it. Productions and how hard it is to do.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah, man. I get you. I feel you. We got time for one more. Choose wisely.
Saving the biggest for last, right? The biggest name that you could possibly get.
Okay.
Ozzie Nelson.
Well, we just said it at the same time. Ozzie Nelson. Yes.
So, best known for his singing skills as well as starring in the television show The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, Ozzie's ghost has stayed in his former home long after his death. Owners claim that the faucets are turned on and off as if by unseen hands, doors open and close on their own, and the lights will go on and off for absolutely no reason.
None.
One owner even claims that Ozzie's spirits decided to play a practical joke and flirt with her one night. She felt the bed covers gently move, gently away, and felt light kisses on her neck.
Man, that'd make me excited.
So he's a creep, basically.
That'd be like, what are you? Holy crap! Why you? I mean, the way you told it, she stuck around long enough to feel the gentle kissing. I mean, come on, now that's commitment to stay.
Hoping that it's Ozzie Nelson.
Yeah, hoping it is instead of the creepy janitor from down the street. Hi there, baby. You might not know it, but I'm a janitor, and
the guy that would cut pet's fur with his bare hands, it's like, no.
I shear sheep for a living. Come here. So that's what he does, is he shows up and creeps women out. That's what he's doing for his afterlife.
Yeah, she'll think I'm Ozzie Nelson.
Yeah, she'll think I'm Ozzie, and she's gonna be so down with this. I mean, not even a problem. No problem at all. Oh my God, that is creepy when you think about it, though. When he just gentle kisses in the back of the neck. I'm glad none of that ever happened to me, because I live in fear. I live in fear of being in a haunted location, or any location for that matter, and feeling something strange crawl in the bed with you. My wife has that same fear, but it happens to her on a nightly basis. But I'm talking about me. I don't want to go through that fear like she has to live through. Yeah, just saying.
She's like, yeah, whatever. I'm not even gonna.
Yeah. Don't, Greg. Just don't. Just walk away for that one.
I'm gonna be nice tonight.
Yeah, just walk away from that one. That one hurts a little much. But we gotta get out of here. Go to break. We come back. We have Robert Sullivan coming on. We're talking all about symbolism and cinema. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Right after this.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey. Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
It's your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At Ace, we're here to help. With hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth. Gardening tools for the shape of good things to come. Even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at Ace, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. Ace,
the helpful place.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Excuse me. Thousands of cancer patients can't afford a place to stay when the best treatment is far from home. A room shouldn't be the difference between life and death. Let's make sure that everyone who needs a room gets one. Let's make some noise. Let's help the American Cancer Society finish the fight.
Text ROOM to 41518 to donate $10.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com. And welcome back to After Hours AM. Hey, I'm going to hand the reins off over to Greg really quick, and he's going to give us a killer introduction.
I certainly will. Thank you very much, Joel. It's always a pleasure to have an introduction before the introduction. It makes things very classy around here.
It does, right? Hey, now you're in the big leagues, baby. You're in the big leagues.
That's right. That's right. We pay for introductions to introductions. Just keep that in mind. So we all watch movies, right? But did you ever stop and think maybe there's more to them than just a great story? Tonight, we're going to go behind the silver screen to expose the hidden messages in your favorite movies and the one person who is going to be able to do that for us. We're very excited. We're going to have Robert Sullivan on with us right now. Robert, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, guys. Hey, Greg. Hey, Joel. Thanks for having me on After Hours AM. Much appreciated. Yeah, I'm doing fine. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to this evening's show.
And I'm very I chuckle to myself, and I'm probably the only one that finds this even remotely funny, is the fact that, we're talking about movies here, and we're talking about a sequel book, if you will, at least an addition to your original book, Cinema Symbolism 2. I mean, it's just funny that we're talking about films that are always about these sequels. You have a sequel for your book. I think it amuses me.
Well, that's right. I did that on purpose. When I did the first book, the Cinema Symbolism, I thought, well, if I'm going to do it's just like a movie sequel. I'm just, new movies basically. So I just called it, well, what else? Let's just call it Cinema Symbolism 2. And I thought it resonated, and I liked it, and the fact that I was doing new movies, in it. I touched on some of the other ones, of course, from the first book, but pretty much all new material, and I'm really pleased with the way it came out. And like I said, I'm looking forward to this evening's conversation. But of course, if you want to talk, briefly, any Royal Arch or the first movie book, certainly that's fine as well.
Sure.
So, go right ahead.
Well, I got to say, this is the third time Robert's been on the show, so a lot of our audience knows Robert Sullivan and really what kind of a class act he is, and the fact that he's a 32nd degree Freemason, baby. You don't get those everywhere, It's not like you can call someone up and go, hey, I need a 32nd degree Freemason. So really, Robert brings a lot of knowledge about that situation. And in fact, the first time we had him on was to talk about the Royal Ark of Enoch, the impact of Masonic ritual. And it was really interesting to dive into that. I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. One thing that, the biggest thing I've heard since our last interview was you had touched on the movie National Treasure as being pretty much a Masonic ritual on film. Is that true?
Well, that's right. That's actually something I talked about in the very first book. In the Royal Arch of Enoch book, because this is what kind of got me started on all of this, was the first National Treasure movie, which is actually the Royal Arch of Enoch ritual. The ritual is part of the high degree system. It's the 13th degree in the Scottish Rite, the 7th degree in the York Rite. It's probably one of the most important rituals in all of Freemasonry, for various reasons. I won't elaborate on that too much. We spend all night on that. But the ritual documents this recovery of this Masonic Templar treasure vault, subterranean. I should say it's not really Templar. It's this Masonic treasure vault, subterranean treasure vault beneath the Holy Ground in Jerusalem. And of course, this is exactly what the National Treasure movie is. It's the restoration of this, Masonic, Templar treasure in a subterranean vault beneath the Holy Ground. They move it to New York. And the reason they move it to New York has to do with a guy by the name of DeWitt Clinton, who was very critical in Royal Arch Freemasonry with the York Rite. He was a former mayor of New York. He was a former governor of New York. He was a former Grand Master of the state of New York. So very important. And this was something in the Royal Arch of Enoch, and I finished that book off with this final chapter called "So Dark the Con of Man," of course from the Da Vinci Code, where I was talking about this sort of Masonic Enochian solar symbolism in film. And again, this was the final chapter, but this was a topic I wanted to talk more about. So this is what kind of gave birth to the first cinema book. And then I wanted to talk about, even more movies. So we did Cinema Symbolism 2. And the reason I bring that movie up is because I was asked a lot about this when I did the first book in interviews. In Cinema Symbolism 2, I actually have a chapter called Freemasonry and Popular Culture. And, the National Treasure movie is always a good lead into that. I took on the Johnny Depp movie, The Ninth Gate. Again, this was something I touched on in the first book, but I got a little more in depth with it in Cinema Symbolism 2. And just some other Masonic movies, little more, some are exoteric, but do contain things beneath the surface, hidden meanings beneath the celluloid. So, I guess the point I was trying to, make with all this is, don't believe that this is all coincidence or happenstance. I mean, if you want to see, the first National Treasure movie is actually a Freemasonic ritual on film. It's this Royal Arch Degree ceremonial, which documents the recovery of this sacred Masonic subterranean treasure vault.
So did anyone ever come clean who worked on National Treasure to say, yeah, this is what it is, or yes, I was influenced by this Freemasonry ritual?
No, they don't like to do that. They're very coy about it. They don't like to give up the ghost. I think part of this whole thing is they like you to figure it out, but they don't admit to it. I'm not sure why that is. They're very coy about it. They will occasionally say, oh well, yeah, we use esoteric symbolism and things like that, but they don't. It's like giving up their secrets. They don't like to admit to it. Occasionally, you'll find someone who talks about using archetypal imagery, or with Joseph Campbell, for instance, with George Lucas with Star Wars. But I've never heard William Friedkin come out and talk about the Neoplatonic solar imagery in Exorcist, or anyone from National Treasure talking about it being a Masonic ritual, or the Wachowskis talking about the Matrix being the Gnostic theology on film. Or even Kubrick with the repetition in The Shining. They are coy about it, and they don't like to admit to it. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure 100% why, but I guess it's sort of like trade secrets almost.
Yeah,
that's what I would describe it to.
It kind of felt like to me like a magician not wanting to tell the public how it's done.
Exactly.
I mean, kind of like a nod to it a little bit, but never give up the goods.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy with it. It's sort of like a magician doesn't want to give away his tricks. I guess this is I guess it's good for me because this allows good topics for me to write about. I don't really think I'm exposing anything, but I do think these guys. I mean, I guess I am exposing it. I don't say that in a negative way though, but I just find it fascinating the length these film producers and these filmmakers will go to include and incorporate this arcane imagery. Literally, quite literally. There are movies I've analyzed 50 Ways from Sunday that I watch to this day, and I'll still pick up something new on it. They really go to great lengths to place this esoteric in their films. And I wrote 2 books on it. I'm actually outlining a third on it. And like I said, I'm really pleased with the way the first 2 books came out.
And I just want to really add this really quickly. One of the biggest movies that listeners, especially after your first appearance and second appearance, came to me wanting to know more about was actually The Shining. It would seem the movie The Shining is just full of hidden messages inside of there. Unless I'm missing something, because I look at it and I try, maybe you can decode that a little bit. What's the hidden messages in The Shining?
Yeah, there's really a lot going on inside Kubrick's The Shining. Out of all the movies he made, there was really 2 that stand out that he put hidden meanings in or hidden imagery in. The Shining is one, and Eyes Wide Shut would be the other. Kubrick in The Shining goes to great lengths to repeat and use repetition, and the reason he does this is, and it's endless. It's endless in that movie, quite literally. There's a lot going on. This was something I first talked about in the movie, but the real granddaddy here is this repetition going on inside The Shining. And the reason he is doing that is he is literally bombarding your conscious and subconscious mind with this whole notion that the Overlook Hotel is one gigantic vicious reincarnation cycle, that it's a sort of endless Ouroboros biting its tail, and it's just constantly repeating this with the murder with Torrance and Grady, and it's just never ending. There are some other, things that he puts in there. There's an alchemical storyline. You have the transition of Jack Torrance from sort of this eccentric writer to a murdering psychopath. Alchemy in films is very sublime. And when I say alchemy, I'm not really talking about the transformation of base metal into gold. It usually involves the transition of the self. But they use all the symbols of Renaissance alchemy to convey this when you're dealing with an alchemical film, unless of course you're dealing with the James Bond movie Goldfinger, which is literal alchemy, which is the transmutation of gold to make it worthless to increase the gold supply, the value of Goldfinger's gold supply. That is actual literal alchemy going on the screen. So when I say alchemy, I'm usually talking about transition of the self.
Sure.
I like in The Shining. He's got the whole motif going on of Native America versus the United States, with the Overlook Hotel representing sort of the dark, decadent side of the United States. It was built on the Indian burial ground, Ullman says. Of course, this is symbolizing the United States being buried, burying the Indian nations. You have, it's opulent. All the best people go there, the Hollywood movie stars, the politicians. So it's kind of this wealthy, dark side of America versus the Indian motif. You have also that going on with the weapons of choice by Wendy and Jack. Jack is wielding the Indian tomahawk or the axe. Of course, Wendy is using the tool of the great American pastime, baseball. She's using the baseball bat. So you have this constant conflict going on of American Indian versus, the European culture that took it over. But the real arcana of this movie is the repetition and this endless repeating that goes on. Just for example, he just likes to repeat things. And to do things in doubles.
Yeah.
And it's just to convey this. I mean, like, for example, when Jack's, it's really quite endless. When Jack's driving at the very beginning, it's all about doubles. He's driving to the hotel. He passes on by two cars that are moving and two cars that are parked. There are two sets of twins. There's the little girls, and then when Ullman is introducing Jack and Wendy or showing them their residence, two more twin girls walk by and he says, have a nice break, ladies. There is what else does he do? Oh, there are two boilers. There are two mazes, the actual Overlook Hotel and the hedge maze outside. Everything. I mean, there are two. Jack Torrance and his wallet when he's sitting at the bar is 2 10s and 2 20s. There are two Portlands more mentioned when he's talking to Lloyd the bartender. Everything is presented in doubles. And then he goes even further by taking this doubles and repeating everything. So, for example, one of the numbers he likes to repeat is the number 12. The hotel is KDK 12. There are, what is it? In the storage, there are 24 pork roasts. That's 12 times 2. The room is 237. If you add that up, you get the number 12. 2 times are showed on the screen, 8 and 4. Add 8 plus 4 and you get the number 12. Everything happens in the number 12. Another number he repeats is the number 42. If you multiply 237, the hotel room number, you get the number 42. Danny's wearing the number 42 on his jersey at the very beginning of the movie. The number 42 is on Scatman Crothers' license plate. Believe it or not, with the phrase "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy" is 33 letters and 9 spaces. 33 plus 9 is the number 30. Is 42 again. It's just endless repetition that he literally bards your mind with. And I'm just giving you some examples. There's many, many more. But this whole notion of this repetition going on inside this movie is to literally hit your subconscious mind with this repetition and convey to you this, and what I call an Ouroboros going on inside this movie, this endless reincarnation cycle of Jack being Delbert or Charles. It's never really determined. But it's a fascinating study in repetition, and it's a movie that I first took on briefly in the first movie book, and it's something I got much more involved with in Cinema Symbolism too. So if you're interested in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and of course I'll just wrap up on this, I'm familiar, I've seen the documentary 237. I'm familiar with the whole Apollo moon landing thing. I'm not sure I buy into that with 100%, but at any rate, it's an interesting story. I mentioned only briefly in the book, but if you're interested in like the repetition in The Shining, check out Cinema Symbolism too.
And all that repetition and whatnot is strictly in the film. None of that has been in the original novelization.
Right. That's another great question. Is do the authors? I mean, when you get a movie based on a novel, do the authors use it? And the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. Stephen King did not like Kubrick's vision of The Shining. In fact, you could almost make the argument. I think it would be very valid to say that Kubrick actually forgot the horror story. The movie or the novel is essentially a ghost story. And if you watch the movie, it doesn't have any of those real elements in it.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
You're right.
Kubrick kind of throws in the thing at the end where Wendy goes into the room and all the skeletons.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of looks like a B movie horror set almost.
Yeah, almost
something out of like a Halloween spirit store around Halloween. It's not really that scary. And King didn't like it. King didn't like it at all. And I think you could really craft the argument that that Kubrick, was so preoccupied with including this repetition and this double language, in the film that he almost forgot it was a ghost story. So in the instance of The Shining, Kubrick definitely altered the novel, and I mean he even changed the room number. I think in the novel it's 217. I want to say, and in the movie it's 237. I'll just wrap up on this because this is an interesting point. If you're familiar with the whole notion from the documentary of room 237, the reason that it's allegedly that he changed it was that that Kubrick showing you that he filmed the footage of the men jumping around on the moon and the moon landing. Apollo 11 may have been faked, and of course Danny stands up with the Apollo 11 sweater on, and then goes to room 237. And in the late 1970s, that was the distance from the Earth to the moon was 237,000 miles. I propose in the book that there could be another reason for this, for the room change number. And not only does it have to do with the repetition, there was a movie actually released, I want to say 3 years earlier, before The Shining. It came out in 1977, I think. And this is a horror movie, and this is something that this is, on the timeline. Kubrick would have been familiar with this movie. It was a horror movie put out by a man. It's a very good movie. It's very well done. It's very symbolic. It's another movie I dissect in the book. It's called Suspiria by Dario Argento. Yep. And if you pay attention to that movie, the whole movie centers around this ballerina going from New York. She's moving from New York to Germany to attend this prestigious German ballet school to find out that it's inhabited by this witches coven. And in the end, she goes and finds this evil old witch hiding out in this sort of sequestered room, and she kind of does battle with her and defeats the evil old witch. And years later, a couple of years later, you have The Shining, where Jack Torrance goes into room 237, finds the evil old woman hiding in the room, and she scares him off. He takes off. So why the change? Why 237? Believe it or not, in Suspiria, Susie Banion's plane number, when she arrives at Germany, she arrives on plane 237 of all things, and that could actually be an homage that Kubrick is paying to Argento's Suspiria, because those two movies sort of have that same sort of context with it. The idea of a person encountering this evil old crone witch type person, hiding out in a room. So that could have been changed as an homage to Suspiria. I mean, I find that very interesting that just a few years earlier, I mean, that fits the timeline perfectly. We have Susie Banion, coming in on flight 237, and then we get room 237 of all things in The Shining. So go figure.
I did read an interview with King, and he said, wow, that the Kubrick version, Stanley's version of The Shining, he thought it was junk. You're right. He absolutely said, wow, this thing's garbage. This is not even what I wrote. And of course, when you watch The Shining at the end, you forget it's supposed to be a horror movie, or he did. And when he throws the skeletons in the end, it kind of felt like an afterthought. Like, oh, well, we better make it somewhat scary. And so I get that, but what kind of mind does it take to put all the doubles in there and all those things to alter the original work of King? Number one, what makes you also wonder is King had final say in what was produced.
Oh, I don't think he did. No? Those guys. No.
Okay.
You sell the movie rights, you're done. You
gotcha.
take your money and you walk away.
Gotcha. See, I thought for some reason King had some influence on the ending or with the end result of the movie.
When you sell a novel, you sell it, and it belongs to them. It's funny you bring that up, because I think I may have mentioned this the last time I was here. I've been asked a similar question before, and you're absolutely right, Joel. King hated it. He did not like Kubrick's vision at all. In fact, he hated it so much in the mid 1990s. King actually bought back the TV rights from Warner Brothers for The Shining, and in the mid 1990s, as I think 1996, Stephen King actually produced a 2-part miniseries that aired on TV of The Shining, and this was his vision of it. And of course, I can't remember who's played Jack Torrance. Wendy was Rebecca De Mornay. I remember that. Yeah. But King actually repurchased the TV rights back, and he executively produced this new version of The Shining. But of course, Kubrick's the one everyone remembers. And I think when these guys, when these directors and filmmakers incorporate this stuff, I mean, I think it's real craftsmanship, especially if it's done right. I mean, it can really make the movie much more interesting and much more mythological, and it invests the movie with, and this is what I talked about in the first book, with this kind of idea of modern mythology. And, hey, did you watch The Shining? It was a horror movie. Yeah, but did you see all this other stuff going on?
Yep. Spielberg does that a lot.
I think that's important to these guys.
Yeah, Spielberg has been known to throw a lot of curveballs in his movies as well. I do remember watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you look, I do believe it is on the left-hand side. You will see R2D2 and C3PO in the ancient. Basically, it's supposed to be. You know what I'm talking about, the ancient
in the Ark.
Yeah, in the Ark. You're supposed to see that. And I went back and looked at it, and sure enough, there they are. He incorporated them as a homage to his work with Star Wars.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it was I think he put it in there because, Star Wars was done by Lucas. Yeah. And Raiders of the Lost Ark was actually done by Lucas and Spielberg.
Yes.
And it's a little homage. It's like a little Easter egg, but that's okay too. It's when Indiana Jones goes down into the Well of the Souls, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant is. And you're right, there's like a pillar or something with hieroglyphs on it. And if you look closely, you'll definitely see a hieroglyph with R2D2 and C3PO. It is definitely there.
And it takes a while to look for it, though. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry about that.
Is it hard to find symbolism in a film such as Raiders of the Lost Ark, where there is so much symbolism anyway that's meant to be on the forefront of what you're watching? Because obviously there's a lot of religious artifact overtones to the film, plus the whole Nazi side of it and everything else. I mean, for something that you're trying to find, maybe something that people aren't going to pick up on right away, I mean, it has to be... That has to really have your job cut out for you.
Yeah, it can be daunting. I stress this. Not every movie has this.
Right.
There are movies that are very well made that are lacking this. You will not find it in any movie. And like with Kubrick's an interesting example because you'll find it in The Shining and Eyes Wide Shut. But then you watch something like Barry Lyndon or Spartacus. Or even, Full Metal Jacket. I mean, it's pretty on the surface movie.
Yeah.
Really no, hidden, underlying. And you see, and that to me is real craftsmanship. That to me is, he knew when to use it and he knew how to use it. And then he uses different techniques in Eyes Wide Shut. There's no repetition. He uses the Christmas lights and different things going on to convey a different message. That's when you get a master. That's when you get a guy who knows what the hell he's doing. And for me, doing these movies is, and sometimes it stands out more than others. For me, the great, methodology is to discover what the underlying subcontext of the movie is. What I'm trying to say is, is it alchemical? Is it Gnostic? Is it dealing with secret societies? Am I dealing with numbers? If so, what's the meaning? What's the greater esoteric context?
Sure.
When that is identifiable by me. Are there archetypes? If so, what type? Am I dealing with the Joseph Campbell monomyth? If that's the case, what's the breakdown? Am I dealing with we talk about, movie symbolism, and you're right with the whole thing with Star Wars. Sometimes movies will reference other movies to make it more powerful. That's a study. Believe it or not, this is something I discovered in the first movie book. It's something I picked up on in part 2. The actual casting of actors and actresses can be done for occult purposes. Once that's very hard to pick up on. Yeah. Once this is discovered, the breakdown of the movie becomes much more easy for me once I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I would agree. And since our interviews, I've gotten a little bit better eye at picking things up. And looking behind them. Thanks mainly to you, Robert, looking a little bit harder at what that really means.
Well, listen, that's why I wrote the book. I, was trying to provide, sort of like a textbook on how to do this and what was going on. And certainly if it helps people, decipher and look for things, hey, that's great. I love to hear it.
Oh, definitely. Greg, man, I know you're not much of a movie buff, right? But do you ever? I mean,
yes. Go ahead.
Do you ever pick up on something? Just go like, wait a minute. Do you ever have that moment?
Well, and that's one of the things I want to kind of talk about a little bit when we come back from our next break, because I kind of want to have a better understanding of the different areas of what we're looking at here in terms of symbolism versus hidden meanings versus just like throwaways like the R2D2 and C3PO on the Ark of the Covenant. Like what is the difference between all those and like the levels of what, like Robert, what you find to be the most interesting out of all that?
Sure, we could do that. It's multi-layered. Sometimes I have a chapter or a section in the book called that deals with one of the movies that's made a bit of a has undergoing a bit of a renaissance is Halloween 3. That has some really cool Easter eggs in it. But then you get into movies like The Shining or Black Swan or things like that where you're really dealing with a lot of hidden arcana. Again, it's am I dealing with ancient religions? It's just really the movie and then discovering the context, assuming there is one, and then taking it from there. And these guys are very adroit with it. It's not easy to do, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, like you said, they're a master. It's hard to pick up. And we're going to learn more, though, with Robert. We come back. We go out, run the break. We come back. We're going to talk more about symbolism in your cinema. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
Hi, I'm Kip Parker. And I'm Charlie Parker. And we're the Parker Brothers. Hey, Charlie, what's missing from our game catalog? I don't know, Kip. Tell me. Well, you can't talk to the dead. You sure as hell can. That's why we got this brand new game called Ouija. Ouija? Well, break that down for me. Well, it's Wii because you're having a great time, and G, it's because G, aren't you having a blast because you're having a good time with the Wii. It looks like it smelled like a Chinaman got caught in there. Don't question it. Well, Ouija, Kip, tell me about it. Well, inside the package comes a flat board with all the letters of the alphabet, numbers from 0 to 9, and a yes-no written out by itself. Well, that sounds like a lot of stuff going on. It's got a lot of stuff going on indeed, Charlie. It also comes with this planchette which hovers over the letters the dead are trying to tell you. Well, how does that work, Chip? Well, you ask the question, and then the dead move your hands in the direction of the answers. That sounds like a heck of a way to find Grandpa's slave money. Turns out it was in the attic. But the questions don't have to be as serious as slavery. You can also find out if Sally's got a crush on you. The dead like to answer all sorts of trivial questions. Feels like they'd have better things to do with their time, Kip. No, lost souls are lost forever, and they're really glad to help. Well, gee, Kip, can't you just get any sort of board with numbers and letters and talk to the dead? The dead prefer quality like anybody else. Quality you can only find at Parker & Parker.
The Ouija board, brought to you by the Parker Brothers, available in both white and colored walworts. Separate but equal savings.
Author Steve Asher brings us Hauntings of Trilogy. Steve's first book, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary. This first installment of the trilogy tells us the tale of the Kentucky State Penitentiary and why it's so haunted. With every turn of the page will be something new and terrifying. Pick up Steve's new book, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and all better bookstores everywhere.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
You were dead! I saw you die! I was faking. I used ninja focus to slow my heart rate down. What are you doing? I'm burying you. I'm alive! I'm alive! You're waking the neighbors! No. Shut up! No! Now I'm gonna play your drum set.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And it's hour 2 of After Hours AM Deeper Cuts. I hope you're enjoying our conversation tonight with the one and only Robert Sullivan. Joel Sturgis is joining me tonight. And as I mentioned, Robert is our guest, and we've been talking about Cinema Symbolism 2, as well as other books that he's written, including the original Cinema Symbolism. We also talked a little bit about the Royal Ark of Enoch. And, we're just going to kind of keep things moving on here. Before we went to break, we're talking a little bit about Halloween 3. And I just have to say this. I have to get it out of my system because I need to do this. I am a very big fan of British television. And when I say fan, it really doesn't really explain it as well as what I really am, because I'm very integrated into the history of British television. Halloween 3, Robert, was written or screenplayed or script written, whatever, by Nigel Neal. And Nigel Neal is a very big name in British television, British film, as he was kind of the father of modern British sci-fi as far as it goes for television and film. And so I just really have to point that out there because I find that very interesting.
Yeah, that's right. He wrote part of the script for Halloween 3. It was cut up. He's ultimately taken off of the. Carpenter worked on it a little bit. The script he presented was butchered and hacked up. And he said, "Take my name off of it." They wanted more gore, and they put Carpenter and Tommy Lee Wallace on it. And Wallace was the he worked with Carpenter on Halloween on the first Halloween and Escape from New York. And then Carpenter said, "Well, take my name off of it." The screenplay is credited to Tommy Lee Wallace, who probably had the least amount to do with it. But yeah, that's absolutely right with Nigel Neal. And I talked about the first Halloween movie, how it was kind of. I talked about this in the first book, where it was kind of like this. I thought that was really an important movie because it was really the first time where Carpenter really returned the movie or the holiday. I mean, this was done through cinema. I mean, this was the cinema affecting the material culture, was where he really returned the holiday of Halloween back to its dark pagan roots. Kind of up until Halloween, the Halloween movie, Halloween was just seen as this sort of childish holiday where kids went out trick-or-treating, things like that, to Halloween parties. But it was really where where Carpenter said, no, this is where evil runs around and you got to watch out. And I really liked that. I thought he did a really good job of incorporating this, the shape, how Michael Myers was sort of this faceless, evil entity that couldn't be stopped, that only roamed on Halloween night. I really like that. I thought that movie really, affected the material culture, kind of changed the way people viewed the holiday. Halloween 3, of course, has nothing to do with the first two Halloweens. That movie, when it came out in 1982, was universally panned. And I remember seeing it. I saw it on cable when I was a kid. I never saw it in the theater, but I remember watching it. And everyone was telling me how bad it was. And it was just pretty much panned because Michael Myers wasn't in it, and it seemed like a ripoff. And then this is what Deborah Hill and John Carpenter wanted to do. They were trying to create an anthology series where every year a different Halloween movie would come out, and it would, center on the holiday, but it would be different. But the movie was pretty much universally panned. But if you actually watch it, it's a very good movie. There's really no other movie I could think that's like it. It has entertaining characters. It has some very interesting Easter eggs in it. And the movie has definitely undergone a bit of a renaissance. If you've ever watched the movie and you didn't like it or have never seen it, give it a second chance.
I think what happened though with Halloween 3 is because there was no Michael Myers, and you're absolutely right. People wanted their Michael Myers. They didn't understand that maybe, this is an alternative Halloween movie. Equally as scary, don't get me wrong, because you put a mask on, you die? That's not cool at all.
Yeah.
It's great for movies, but I would not want to be that poor kid wearing the mask when it expires.
Right. They didn't want, Carpenter didn't want to do any Michael Myers movies, and neither did, Deborah Hill. They just, Michael Myers was dead after part 2. But you're absolutely right. The marketing for Halloween 3, it was ambiguous. You didn't know if Michael Myers was in it, and if and like you said, it's one of those things where that was really the franchise. I mean, when they eventually reinvented it, with Halloween 4, they actually made damn sure they put the subtitle on it, "The Return of Michael Myers," so people knew that the shape was back. Right, and Halloween 3 was just kind of written off as a sort of standalone Halloween movie. And it was, people didn't like it because of, Michael Myers not being in it. If you actually subtract off the Halloween title and watch it, just watch it like Season of the Witch, which was his subtitle. It's a very good movie. Tommy Lee Wallace actually said in an interview, he said, but it was the Halloween title was a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
It was a curse because Michael Myers wasn't in it. He said, but if it didn't have the Halloween title, the movie never would have gotten made to begin with.
That's true. That's true. They need that tagline to go off of the Halloween franchise line. Otherwise, no one would have went to go see it anyway, and it wouldn't have made anything.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. But let's give a little teaser to the people that need to go buy this book, of course. That's Cinema Symbolism 2, more esoteric imagery in cinema. And that, of course, is written by Robert Sullivan, and you can pick that copy up right now. I'm looking at it right now on Amazon. You can get it. You can get a Kindle edition. Get this great read for $10. You hear that, Greg?
Yep.
$10 on Kindle. So
I see that right now.
If you're a Kindle reader, that's the deal right there on itself. You can also get the paperback, which I highly recommend everyone do. $32.53. That ain't bad, man. I just spent a lot more than that. I've spent a lot more than that on books, but I just want to say, Robert's books, that I've read quite a few of them, they are page turners. Let me tell you, I don't mean to sound like an infomercial, but really, when Robert writes, he writes, and
thank you.
And it's very, very interesting. I remember Cinema Symbolism 1, and you blew my ever-loving mind. In fact, I told you that before the interview. I'm like, dude, really? And he said, just relax. Let's talk a little bit. And you really introduced me to that idea of going deeper behind the movies. And ever since then, I've been bit by the bug. But the reason why I'm kind of rambling here is Easter eggs, man. They're all the rage. And we're not talking about the Easter Bunny, but little Easter eggs given by the filmmakers. They seem to be out there more and more, but now, which ones would you say are the biggest ones and the best ones that Season of the Witch has to offer?
Yeah, the Easter egg idea can also be utilized, and this is sometimes the case, to tip you off to something greater. To tip you off to a greater truth hidden in the movie. But like, in Cinema Symbolism 2, I have a chapter on horror movies, and I broke down Halloween 3, and the subsection was called Easter Eggs in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I did that on purpose because I was I like the idea of Easter and Halloween kind of, walking hand in hand almost. But yeah, I mean, there's some great little things going on in that. And like I said, it's, for example, a lot of people may not know this, but Jamie Lee Curtis is actually in the movie. She was, of course, the Laurie Strode in part 1 and again in part 2. She actually turns up in part 3. She is the voice of Santa Mira's curfew announcer and the telephone operator of Santa Mira. That is Jamie Lee Curtis's voice right there. The guy who made the movie, Tommy Lee Wallace, is if you've seen this movie, you're going to pick up on this immediately. Was a huge fan of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And Invasion of the Body Snatchers took place in where else but Santa Mira. So of course Halloween 3 takes place in where else? Santa Mira. You have the whole. I really like the whole idea. Of the whole idea of witchcraft meeting modern technology. Halloween 3 was one of the first movies to do this. The only other one I could think of was a movie I think that came out a year or maybe 2 years earlier called Evil Speak, which had to do with a Satanist using a computer to cast a spell and things like that. So Halloween 3 was really the idea of using modern technology with witchcraft. That works really well. The guy who's the witch, Connell Cochran. I mean, we've got all kind of symbolism with Druidism, and sort of black magic. I mean, Druidism, sort of the darker side of it. If you pay attention to this, he's hijacked one of the trilithon stones from Stonehenge, and in his little secret lab, the actual computers are in the magic circle. Are forming the Stonehenge type structure. So I thought that was really interesting. He's got the ancient technology with the modern technology in the form of Stonehenge. That works with great effect. It's a great movie. Like I said, if you've never seen it or you saw it and you didn't like it, give it a second shot. The movie masks are Don Poe's studio naturally. They were a huge mask-making company in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. It's a great film, and like I said, there's little, the whole thing at the ending of it also, where Tom Atkins, who's the hero, is screaming, stop it at the end. That's another reference to Invasion of the Body Snatcher, where Kevin McCarthy is running around screaming, "They're here," at the end of Invasion. So check out Cinema Symbolism 2. It breaks down the movie. It's got some interesting symbolism in it. A couple great Easter eggs, by all means. So check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it again.
I'm looking at, I'm just looking at the cover right now, right? And right away, the first thing that hits me is V for Vendetta, which I think is a fantastic film. Do you see stuff like that coming out, and right away you're just kind of almost like, licking your chops, like, I think there's going to be a ton of amazing things in this, and like you could almost tell from the trailers that this is going to be something special?
Well, it's a great question because, I never break down a movie or analyze it until I saw it, until I've seen it in full. But when you're dealing with V for Vendetta, you're dealing with Alan Moore. It's based on his comic book. He's a neo-pagan. He's a neo-Gnostic. He's very heavily influenced by the occult. So, this is kind of like the reverse with Stephen King, where, you'll find the occult symbolism in his work. So there, it will turn up in the movie. V for Vendetta is a movie that I broke down in Cinema Symbolism 2. I have a section on Alan Moore. I like his work. I like the movies that are made off of them. He sometimes does not. He's much more critical. But I do like the movies that are made off his comics. I broke down 3 movies in the book based on Alan Moore's work. V for Vendetta was obviously one of them. From Hell, and then Watchmen was another one. And when I watched V for Vendetta, I saw a lot of Gnostic imagery. I saw a lot of anti-Christian imagery in it. He despises Christianity. He's made no bones about that. So you will find a lot of anti-Christ imagery in V for Vendetta. I mean, he's more rabid about it than most people. He is not a fan of Christianity. And that's not me speaking. That's Alan Moore.
Yeah, exactly.
So you will find that in the movie. I like it. I've watched it several times, and it was a movie I analyzed in the book. And I think it's a great movie.
Now, Robert, do other really nefarious secret societies ever use movies to communicate with each other, like the ever dreaded Illuminati?
Well, no, I don't. I've been involved with Freemasonry for going on 20 years. I have no reason to believe the Illuminati exists anymore. I was just on another show talking about this. The Illuminati of Bavaria, of Adam Weishaupt, I believe to be totally defunct. If you use the word Illuminati to just reference some sort of global elitist, I guess that's okay, something like Bilderberg or something. But the actual Illuminati, I have no reason to believe exists. I talk in the book, though, about the Illuminati in film. They do turn up in cinema. I actually have a chapter in there called, Ta-da, the Illuminati in film. And I talked about the Kubrick Eyes Wide Shut. I guess that's sort of the granddaddy of the Illuminati films. The Lara Croft Tomb Raider movie has the Illuminati in it, at least a modern, iteration of it. Other Illuminati films that came to mind was something like They Live, movies like Angels and Demons, again, has the Illuminati mentioned in it. Yep. So, I mean, I get, I don't really believe that. I mean, when it comes to Freemasonry in Hollywood, a lot of movie directors were Masons. Sure. Tons of actors have been Masons. And you like I said, with National Treasure, you can find a Masonic influence. But I don't know. I don't really see, some sort of secret society pulling the string of all movies behind the scene. If you want to see that in a film, where, there is a secret cabal controlling all of Hollywood, the movie you want to take a look at for that is Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. I took on 4 of Lynch's movies. I have a chapter on David Lynch in the book. I took on 4 of Lynch's movies, and Mulholland Drive, I actually called it Mulholland Drive, the dreamscape, the real world, and the Hollywood Illuminati. But I guess I could have put that also in the Illuminati chapter, but I put it in the David Lynch chapter. So, Yeah, I mean, the Illuminati in film, I think, is very fascinating. But the Illuminati controlling Hollywood, I think that's more of a conspiracy theory than fact.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some digging about the Illuminati, and of course, I can't find anything credible to even, like you said, lend any credence to their existence anymore. Maybe at one time in this country, the Illuminati was something, but now they're all but debunked.
Well, yeah, the Illuminati was a real group. It was this sort of like splinter Masonic organization. If I talk about them very much in the Royal Arch of Enoch, they are important. They do have influence. They did influence the construct of the United States. You'll find their influence in art.
Yeah.
The opera by Mozart, The Magic Flute, has a Illuminati influence with it. By all accounts, they seem to be completely defunct and out of business. I would say by the latest in the early 1800s, maybe 1810, 1815 at the latest. You will find their influence going forward in the United States, but that gets sort of cut off in the mid 1820s by something called the William Morgan Affair, where Mason really took a crippling blow and almost went out of business. But they are important. They were real. That's true.
Were they evil? Were they evil?
No, I don't think I wouldn't use the word evil. But a lot of times when you're dealing with groups like that, you're dealing with a lot of subterfuge.
Sure.
The entire society was modeled after the Jesuits, and they were the spy masters of Europe. And in fact, I claim in the book, and this was claimed by other people who joined the Illuminati, that the Illuminati was just the Jesuits and, just a front for the Jesuits. The Jesuits, the Illuminati comes on the scene around 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, who has been alleged to be a Jesuit or a former Jesuit. He is actually Jesuit trained, as were all the Illuminati members. And the Illuminati was actually put out of business by Europe by the Pope just a couple of years earlier. I want to say in 1773, 1774. And by all accounts, what the Illuminati was some sort of Jesuit front.
Sure.
And people say, oh, they're occult, they're esoteric, they're anti-Catholic. That's a trick. That's the Counter-Reformation. What they're doing is using mysticism and the occult and Christian Kabbalah to actually lure you back to the Catholic Church. So, and that's what these guys were masters of. It's Counter-Reformation trickery. They use it to they attack it on one hand, but then they want you to study it, and they're using it secretly to actually lure you back.
I see. So it's a clever advertising. Yeah, it's clever advertising is what it was.
Exactly.
So here's an interesting question, and I don't know if you'd have an answer for it, but it makes me wonder, what is it about us as a society that wants to believe in these super powerful organizations that run the world, such as maybe like the Illuminati in the background, or what we all pretend to think what Freemasonry is, or even like the Rothschilds? What is that about? What is it you think is about that we keep trying to perpetuate that theory?
Well, some of it is true, is part of it. The United States is a Masonic republic. Everything in this country is Freemasonic. Everything. The United States presidency is modeled after the Royal Arch Solar High Priest. The Constitution of the United States is a Masonic document. The triple division of government is Freemasonic. Separation of church and state is Freemasonic. City templates are Freemasonic. Everything in this country that you look at is Freemasonic. When the problem is, when this country was cultivated and being developed, they were using Freemasonry to do all this. The problem is there was no transparency. They were just doing it. So years later, people see all the symbolism and they think this is evidence of this vast, demonic, grand Masonic conspiracy where the founders of the country were just using Masonic tools and symbolism and philosophies to craft the nation around. They never saw this as evil or anything like that. When they were modeling this country, they knew what they didn't want. They didn't want a monarchy, and they didn't want the Vatican. So what organization is egalitarian, democratic, and that we all belong to and has a working constitution? Oh, it's Freemasonry.
Yeah.
Let's use that. And that's exactly what they did. When you're getting into Masonic history and Masonic symbolism, what's I think fascinating about it is, and with groups like the Illuminati and with like the, even trickling down to the, this movie symbolism and some of this material is, you really, Greg and Joel, you really start, at least for me, you enter into the realm of what I call you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just dealing with things that you start explaining it to people, and it's like, you got to be kidding. I mean, the truth is stranger literally than fiction.
Oh yeah.
You know, whether it be with the Masonic country and the symbolism, and you know, I mean, the lengths that some of these guys went to model things after Masonic rituals and things like that. You know, you fast forward to the movies, and you got the Aleister Crowley influence with Ian Fleming. You got Buckminster Fuller, the guy who designed Epcot Center. You know, in Disneyland, its most iconic symbol. You know, ties in with John Dee of all things, with alchemy and math. And that's a fascinating study. And it just all, I think the reason that people find it fascinating or are so intrigued by it, at least me too. I mean, you know, I wrote 3 books about it. It's fascinating. It's just really interesting material. And Masonry spans so much. I mean, you're dealing with political movements. You're dealing with famous people. You're dealing with philosophy. You're dealing with revolution. You're dealing with bloodshed. You know, you're dealing with changing society. You're dealing with, you know, dark side. You know, Albert Pike writes about Lucifer. It covers so many topics that it's just a fascinating subject matter, and I'm fascinated by it. Like I said, I wrote a 700-page book about it, and 2 movie books, you know, about hidden symbolism.
Definitely. Well, we got a quick listener question. They say, hey, with the passing of George Romero. And he was such a influence in the horror genre. Does Robert know of any movies that George himself might have used hidden symbolism?
Oh, of course. Night of the Living Dead. The Night of the Living Dead movie is the civil rights movement. That entire movie is reflecting the struggling civil rights movement. The hero is African American. I mean, it is the first movie to really feature an African American hero. And all he deals with is hysterical white people, or whites who think he's better than them. And then you have, I mean, you know, he gets gunned down at the end. That's obviously reflecting, you know, he's gunned down at the end by white trash militia. And that's obviously reflecting the deaths of people like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Medgar Evers. So yeah, I mean, Night of the Living Dead. I mean, Romero. I talk about it briefly in Cinema Symbolism, but Romero, he talked about this during his life. That entire movie is a reflection of the civil rights movement.
And then I want to say that Dawn of the Dead was a definite blow or a criticism of our consumerism.
I've never seen it, so I'll have to take your word for it.
You've never seen the original Dawn of the Dead, my friend Robert? You've never seen that one?
No, I saw the one I really liked was, there's a funny thing with the sequels with Dawn of the Dead. The one I liked was Return of the Living Dead.
Sure.
Yeah, I really, you know, with the zombies in the graveyard. I have never seen Dawn of the Dead.
Oh man, you got to watch it. Yeah, I'll even loan you my copy, my friend.
Oh, I'll take a look at it. I get asked all the time when I come on shows. I'm starting to send this out. When I get invited on shows, I say, you know, I'll talk about movies, but I got to make sure I've seen it first, because inevitably someone asks me about movies I haven't seen before. I can't watch them all.
And how do you keep up? Yeah.
One of the things that makes this difficult is when I'm doing this breakdown of these movies, this analysis, it's multiple viewings. You got to watch the movie over and over again. And I can't tell you, you know, it's constantly. You know, you get into these movies that are really deep with this stuff, like The Shining and things like that. It's constantly moving around. I need to watch this end. Did he say this at the beginning? I mean, I can't tell you. You some of these movies. I mean, the slightest thing can throw a whole movie into a deep esoteric meaning. And if it's not there at the beginning, but it's there at the end, well, why is that? It can be really mind-numbing at times.
Well, you know, we're gonna get into that. We'll come back from break. I'd like to have you tell us a little bit of how you look for this kind of stuff, maybe so we all can have a better eye. You know what I mean?
Sure,
have a better eye of looking for ourselves, you know, not just take it at face value. You know, kind of like how you go through a movie. How do you review it? I mean, how do you keep the notes? Stuff like that. If you wouldn't mind giving up a little bit of your trade secret, I'd love to know
what
better.
I can do there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll try to break it down and give you some tips on what to do and things like that.
Yeah, well, we got to run a break. When we come back, more Robert Sullivan. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more symbolism in your cinema. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
In 1999, The Exorcist was voted the scariest movie of all time.
Your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
Entertainment Weekly calls it the most viscerally harrowing movie ever made.
That thing upstairs isn't my daughter.
The most electrifying movie of the 20th century is now coming back to theaters.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
Author William Peter Blatty and director William Friedkin have created an expanded, thrilling new version of The Exorcist with footage that has never been seen before.
She needs a priest.
Don't miss The Exorcist in the version you've never seen. Possessing theaters everywhere. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And I don't know how it happened, but this is the last segment of our show tonight. This is After Hours AM Deeper Cuts. My name is Greg Bakken. I am very well with Joel Sturgis right now, co-hosting with us tonight. And then our guest is the wonderful Robert Sullivan, who we've been talking all night about cinema symbolism. We're talking about his book, Cinema Symbolism 2, More Esoteric Imagery in Popular Movies. You can pick that up on Amazon. As Joel said the last segment, the Kindle version's only $9.99. If you are a paperback sort of person like myself, you're looking at $32, which is going to be well worth it. And, before we went to break, Joel was talking about some of the stuff that we want to talk about, kind of what you will talk about, how you'll go into a film to dissect stuff. But I did want to ask you one quick question, and maybe this is a popular misnomer of sorts. Could you do an entire book on Disney films?
I don't know if I could do an entire book on it, but I did some Disney movies in Cinema Symbolism 2. This was actually something I was planning in Cinema Symbolism 1, but I ran out of time, and the book would have just gone on forever. So I saved Disney for Cinema Symbolism 2. I did some movies. Disney gets a bad rap. He's not a Freemason. I can clear that up. And a lot of the fairy tale movies are just that. They're based on earlier fairy tales. I mean, Disney didn't invent any of this stuff.
No.
But there is this darker side to it. And I broke down some Disney movies in Cinema Symbolism 2, and I'm going to do another slate of Disney movies in Cinema Symbolism 3. I don't know if I go so far as to say I can write an entire book about it, but there are a lot of talking points with Walt Disney.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Go ahead, Joel.
I was going to say, we did a show earlier about the dark side of Disney. So that's up for download. So, I mean, if you really want to hear the down and dirty, horrific things about Disney, you can download that show. But then, of course, Robert, you did a wonderful job. You included a lot of Disney, like Greg had said, but really quickly, as far as the thing I always hear about Disney with maybe hidden meanings as Fantasia. And that seems to be the one that just keeps coming up and won't go away from listeners.
Well, the one that out of all the Disney movies, the one that I thought was the most professionally done and really had a lot going on, it was The Lion King. And that was the second highest grossing movie of 1994. Fantasia, yeah, I mean, there's some things in it. There's really only, I thought there was really only two portions of that were really worth talking about: The Night on Bald Mountain and Ave Maria, sort of the Manichaeanism, light versus darkness, and then The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I thought those were the two that were really worth talking about. There's a lot of bad material out there in Walt Disney. He was not in the Illuminati. He's not a Freemason. He was in a group called Demolay, which is the Masonic Boy Scouts. But a lot of the we're like in The Rescuers, where there was the pornography still in the background. I mean, people say, "Oh, this is this evidence." I mean, this is just obviously, one of the animators screwing around.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Disney stuff. I mean, I got into a lot of the archetypal imagery with things like Snow White, Maleficent. We were talking during the break. Maleficent is another one of these Enochian type figures, an Enochian demon like the Transformers. Yeah. I got into Snow White. That she has to do with the Counter-Reformation. Cinderella does as well. Then you got into this whole darker phase that Disney went into, movies like The Black Hole, Something This Wicked This Way Comes. I took on the ones I grew up on. I actually saw them both in the theater. Was the Witch Mountain movies? Yeah, they're very interesting. And then I did the granddaddy of them all for really the hardcore symbolism. I thought was The Lion King. That really. That really has the whole Egyptian Osirian cycle in it. It's very well done. They really knew what they were doing. There's some also references in that to Hamlet by Shakespeare. This ties into what we were talking about during the first portion, where movies not only reference like ancient religion, ancient symbols, Kabbalah, alchemy, they can actually reference other movies for the purposes of conveying deeper meanings. So yeah, I did a whole chapter on Walt Disney. I'm real happy with the way it came out, but I plan on doing another slate of Disney movies for Cinema Symbolism 3.
So how is it then? Before we went to the break, like I said, Joel wanted to talk a little bit about your kind of methodology of doing this. And the first question I had regarding that sort of area would be, how do you decide, like for current films, what do you want to check out and see? I mean, do you generally go into looking at new films for symbolism, or do you go just to enjoy them like the rest of us mere mortals?
It's a good question. It's both. Sometimes I watch a film just for entertainment. Sometimes I watch it for symbolism. If I'm in a movie theater, that can be problematic because I want to start taking notes if I start seeing things and I can't. It's too dark. Yeah. And I really, that's why I really wait to really do these analysis once the movie's out on Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. It's not a question of like, oh, do I see a movie and then find symbolism in it? I got to see the movie and see if the symbolism is there. There are things I look for. It's the overarching I start big and then go small. It would be the way I would do it. Is what's the overarching theme in this movie? That has to, when I identify that, then it becomes a little more easier to pick up on things. But again, this stuff is very well hidden. It's multiple viewings for me to pick up on this material. And it's not, I don't go into it with seeing a movie like, okay, I'm going to find symbolism in this movie, because you can't do that. There could be none.
Yeah.
I like the movie Reservoir Dogs as much as the next person, but I mean, it's got some archetypes in it, but really nothing more than that. It doesn't make it a bad movie or anything. But then you sit down and watch something like, The Shining, or Black Swan, or Crimson Peak, where you can clearly see right off the bat there's some interplay with the costumes, and that there's things going on in these movies. It can be little tip-offs. It can be a number that could require research. Is there is there a religious theme? Is it a religious movie? If there is, there's always going to be this interplay with light versus dark, and you'll find this also in non-religious movies. Is it a Gnostic movie? Is it alchemical? This is all things that I look for, keep an eye out for. It's multiple viewings, and then when I kind of, I've become much better at it, and it doesn't take me as long to identify it. But then when I do it, when I see it, that makes the movie a lot more easier to decode, because then I have a better idea of what to look for. If that makes sense.
How many times on average do you watch a movie? I mean, like, obviously Shining, you've probably seen that at least a dozen or more times.
Yeah, it's a lot of times, and it's a lot of times of watching sometimes just individual scenes. For dialogue and little tip-offs and little clues. Yeah, I mean it's sitting there watching the movie at least 5 times, I would say, on average. I mean, that's like undivided attention with a pad of paper in front of me. There was an interesting thing that happened with me with the movie Crimson Peak. I'll just tell you this story real quickly. I talk about this movie very at length in Cinema Symbolism too. This movie is very symbolic. It has a lot of symbolism going on in it. I got the Blu-ray here. It was the first time I was watching it, and I'm sitting there making the notes on it. And I'm watching it and I'm paying attention. I'm seeing what the director's going for, and there's a lot of solar allegory and light versus dark interplay,
sure.
and I like the movie, and I'm watching it, and I get about halfway through it, and then something happened that I didn't expect. I'm watching the movie, and the writer, the Mia Wasikowska character, Edith Cushing, she's in this haunted mansion, and she goes into this green bathroom, and this ghost comes up out of the tub and scares her off. She runs off, and I actually paused it, and I thought, okay, this, you don't have to be an expert on movies to know that the guy, Guillermo del Toro, is obviously paying an homage to The Shining right here.
Yep.
I mean, this is referencing the scene where Torrance goes into the green bathroom and the evil ghost, the old woman, comes up out of the tub and scares him the hell off. And I actually started thinking, I said, wait a minute. I thought, am I watching this movie correctly? Because I'm seeing all this symbolism, and this is where these things can really get complicated, is when these things become multi-layered, where there's one level of symbolism on top of another, on top of another. And I actually paused the movie, and I actually started thinking about what I had actually seen. I'd only been about halfway through the movie, and I thought to myself, am I watching this correctly? And I stopped the movie, and I put the notes I'd made off to the side. I got a new set of paper, and I actually titled it The Shining versus Crimson Peak. And I started watching it. I thought, let me watch this movie as if I was watching The Shining. And sure enough, the entire movie is a frame-by-frame remake of The Shining. Everything. If you ever seen Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak, it is literally from start to finish a frame-by-frame remake of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Everything. In fact, it was so blatant. By the time I had re-gotten to the scene where the ghost comes up in the tub in the green bathroom, I actually knew the rest of the movie. I knew what was going to happen. This was the first time I had seen it. I thought, okay, this is going to end up with Jessica Chastain running around with this hatchet meat cleaver, chasing Mia Wasikowska, the writer, and she's going to have a knife, and that's exactly what happened. The movie is literally, quite honestly, it's an amazing breakdown. I have it in the book. We won't have time to get into all of it, but it has, Crimson Peak is one of those ones, and I really liked it. And this is why I liked it. It's like the Wizard of Oz. It has these multi-levels of symbolism. It has the whole Manichaean light versus darkness symbolism in it. But then it's got this entire Shining subtext in it. And again, this is what we were talking about earlier. It's the movie is actually referencing another movie to make it even that much more powerful, the symbolism. So, it's a fascinating study. And it's things like that can just tip you off and send you on down a different rabbit hole.
Well, yeah, I saw Crimson Peak, and you're right, because I remember watching it in the movie theater going, wait a minute, this seems oddly familiar. And I'm normally as dense as a brick when it comes to looking for these things in film. But this, I'm going, this seems awfully familiar. I couldn't put my finger on where. And I'm thinking, And now that you say that, you're absolutely correct. If you pass the part where she emerges from the tub, everything after that does fall in line with The Shining. You're absolutely correct.
Everything before it
yes.
falls in line with The Shining.
Yep.
The entire movie, from the opening sequence to the ending, the entire movie from the beginning to the end is The Shining.
So do you like that, or does that ruin it, or does it?
Oh, I love it.
You love it?
Oh yeah, I mean that to me, I mean I love it when these guys do that. I mean that's a real challenge to find that, to discover that and to break it down, and to see that and to be able to break it down. I mean that's it. That's the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you start doing that. That's when you're really decoding these things. And I mean that to me is like a holy grail movie. That's like The Wizard of Oz or The Matrix or Black Swan. That's one of those movies where it's almost like anytime you watch it, I've seen it dozens of times, but every time you watch it, you might see something new you didn't see before.
Yeah.
And that's really excellent craftsmanship. That's symbolism done at its best by guys who know what they're doing.
Really quick, we get another listener question. They're curious if M. Night Shyamalan is famous because he seems to add a lot of symbolism, but is there any esoteric symbolism with M. Night?
No, not really. I like The Sixth Sense. Beyond that, I'm not a big fan of his work.
Yeah, me neither. The only other one that I saw recently was, of course, Split, and I thought that was decent. But other than that, it's kind of and no offense to anyone that likes this stuff, it's kind of a snooze fest.
Yeah, I agree. I like The Sixth Sense. I was not a fan of his subsequent work. The one that was just awful was The Village.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
God awful. He screws up his symbolism and I know the movie he's getting this from. In The Sixth Sense, he uses the color red to he uses it on screen, and he even said this in an interview. He said, "Oh, I used the color red to show you anytime a ghost or something bad was going to happen." That's really not a proper use of the color red. The color red, if it's properly used by a filmmaker who knows what they're doing, that symbolizes alchemy. That's the completion of the alchemical process.
Gotcha.
Shyamalan is getting that symbolism from a movie that came out in the early 1970s called Don't Look Now, starring Donald Sutherland. That is a movie that people love or hate. There is no gray area with that movie. And it has to do with this. The movie revolves around Donald Sutherland and his wife. And at the very beginning, their daughter is wearing a red rain jacket, a red raincoat, and she drowns. And then they have this. They both of them sort of have like a nervous breakdown almost, and they just they leave the country. They just have to get away, and they wind up going, I think, to Florence, Italy. And he's working over there, and she falls in. The wife falls in with these eccentric psychics who are borderline witches. And Donald Sutherland, as the movie progresses, there is these series of murders going on, and there's this little little character running around in a red rain slicker every time these murders occur. And this is where Shyamalan is getting this color red from.
Okay.
He's not really doing it properly. Well, what the movie leads you to believe is that this is somehow if you watch the movie, it's a double take. The wife falls in with these psychics, and the psychics are telling her the ghost of the little girl is trying to reach out to them. And you see this little character in the red rain slicker running around. I won't give the story away, but you're led to believe that this is the daughter's spirit trying to get in contact with the mother and father. It is not. I'm not going to give the story away.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you've never seen it, watch Don't Look Now. You'll love it or hate it. And I'll just get into this real quick, because this was a movie that I took on in Cinema Symbolism too. Shyamalan also borrows for The Sixth Sense heavily from a movie that came out in 1990 called Jacob's Ladder.
Yes, yes, you're right. I remember seeing that.
And I think that's a very good movie. But he almost kind of like rips that off. I mean, I took on Jacob's Ladder in Cinema Symbolism too. That has loads of esoteric symbolism. The guy who directed that is a guy named Adrian Lyne, and his movies are filled with a lot of symbolism. He did. We won't have time to get into it, but he did Jacob's Ladder, which has a lot of esoteric symbolism in it. He did Fatal Attraction. And there's some interesting interplay with the Glenn Close character with that. And then he did another movie called 9.5 Weeks, which is overloaded with color symbolism, alchemy, transition of the self. So Adrian Lyne is a guy who's kind of forgotten in all of this, but he is very adroit. when it comes to esoteric symbolism. But yeah, M. Night Shyamalan, I mean, I like The Sixth Sense. I'm not going to put the movie down. I'm a fan of it. I'm not a fan of his subsequent work. I haven't seen any of his recent movies. I like I said, The Village I just thought was awful.
Well, yeah, after The Village came out, and especially The Happening. Oh,
I never even heard of that.
My Lord. Anyhow, and not to rip on him because I know he has a lot of fans. And
The Sixth Sense is a good movie. I mean, The Sixth Sense is a good movie, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, so exactly. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just wondering because you talked about with Jacob's Ladder that it are parts of it that might have been going too far and ripping off. When does an homage become a ripoff, in your opinion?
Oh, the one that I just couldn't stand because I just thought it was a complete ripoff of the Shaw Kung Fu movies was the Kill Bill movies by Quentin Tarantino, and I like Reservoir Dogs and I like Pulp Fiction. I thought those were very good movies. I mean, I thought those were very well done, entertaining movies. But when I saw Kill Bill, I mean, I just thought he was. I just saw a ripoff. I mean, I didn't see anything original. I just saw all the cliches from the Shaw Brother Kung Fu movies just being repackaged, and I did not like those movies at all. I remember watching them. This was a few years ago, and I just was almost like offended by them. I just thought, it's one thing. To homage something, and that's fine. But it's another thing just to repackage it and just put another name on it. Which, if you're familiar with kung fu movies from the 70s, especially those of the Shaw Brothers studios, that's really the primary one. That Kill Bill movie is just a complete total ripoff of those things. And I think Tarantino was hoping no one noticed. If you're not a fan if you've never seen a Shaw Brother movie. Or unfamiliar with them, you'll watch Kill Bill and may think, oh, this is a great film.
Yeah.
But if you're familiar with the Shaw Brother movies, I just thought those were total ripoffs.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those when I was a kid because I was big on the Kung Fu movies and the Shaw Brothers.
Of course.
They did some really, really good films. And when I saw Kill Bill, I'm thinking, wow, this is a whole. Even the stunts were the same. A lot of the stunts were the same.
Yeah.
It was kind of strange.
He didn't even change the character. I mean, you got the Pac May character in there.
Yeah.
The guy with the white mustache and the white hairball, the hairpin. I mean, it's the same character. I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, why don't you just throw Bruce Lee in there or something? I mean,
have Jackie Chan show up. Yeah,
it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know. I didn't like him.
Well, we have to end, though, with The Matrix, because this whole time we've been talking, everyone's like, well, ask Robert about The Matrix. Well, what is it with The Matrix? Why is everyone so in love with the symbolism of The Matrix?
Oh, that's one that just has so much in it. I mean, that is really... that is the Gnostic religion on film. I mean, that's got, from a Gnostic standpoint, that's got everything you want. I mean, you deal with Gnosticism. You've got three fountainheads. Oh boy, I won't have time for this.
Yeah.
We only got a little bit of time left, but you got these three fountainheads of Gnostic philosophy: Mani, Basilides, and Valentinus. Basilides has nothing to do with it. It's Mani and Valentinus, where you have Mani is the light versus dark, good versus evil, and of course this is what you have in the Matrix. But then Valentinus' cosmology deals with matter being evil, matter, the material world being a false illusion, and this rebirth to gnosis, to spiritual enlightenment. I mean, this is exactly what you have in the Matrix. I mean, you've got the false reality. This is pure Valentinianism. This is Gnosticism, and you become awake by, and you have the spiritual revelation. It's anti-consumerism. It's anti-materialism. In the Matrix, everyone is, dressed well, wears the leather, has the slick back hair, the mirror sunglasses. When they discover the truth, they're living like, crap on this lousy deck of this spaceship. I mean, my goodness gracious, you got so much going on in that. You've got the wizard archetype, Morpheus. I mean, when Neo goes to meet him, he goes into the quasi-Masonic temple, with the white and black checkered floor. He goes up the steps, symbolizing ascension. You've got the whole thing where he melts with the mirror. That's Alice in Wonderland, going through the mirror to the, to the truth, to the magical realm. Clearly, you have Neo as the Gnostic savior figure, the Christ figure, who's going to awaken mankind from their slumber, from their stasis, bring them out of bondage. I can't remember the number, but when he gets on board the Nebuchadnezzar's bridge, it says Mark 3:22 or something. That's a Bible verse referencing Jesus Christ saying, the Son of Man has come and all demons will bow down before him or something like that. I'd have to go look. Mm-hmm. But then you have the whole thing with Gnosticism where you have the false reality. You've got the demiurge, the creator of the false reality, who's the architect of all things. The architect enforces the will through the archons, which are his enforcers, which are angels and demons. That's the agents in the Matrix. So yeah, I mean the Matrix and all three of them. But the first movie, if you really want to watch the Gnostic religion on film, check out the first Matrix movie. That has it from start to finish. And the Matrix films, those were something I took on in the original Cinema Symbolism book. So if you're interested in Gnosticism and you're interested in the Gnostic religion in film, by all means, check out the first Matrix movie.
Oh, definitely. And I know we're only down to 5 minutes left. Can you believe that, Greg? Almost done.
No, I can't.
And it really went by really, really quick because there's so much to cover. And of course, Robert, you have a website out there. So why don't you tell the audience your website and really where they can get all your books? Because I know everyone's been clamoring to get them as soon as the show's done.
Oh, absolutely. Well, for starters, let me say thank you, Greg, and thank you, Joel, for having me on After Hours AM. I really appreciate it. I thought it was a tremendous show, and like I said, we'll have to do it again in the near future. Absolutely. If you're interested in me and you're interested in my books, the easiest way to find me is my website. It's my name. My name is Robert W. Sullivan IV. So that's just my website. It's www.robertwsullivan.iv, the letter I, the letter V for the fourth.com. From there, there's links to buy the books, information about me, information about upcoming appearances I'm going to be, my biography, links to buy the books. They're on all the major online retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. You guys have mentioned it. You can get the Kindle for $10. If you want the paperback, that's readily available as well. www.robertwsullivan.iv.com. Links to my YouTube channel. You can listen to other interviews I've done. Follow me on Twitter. That's all there. It's a very easy page to navigate. And again, links to buy the books. In Canada, it's on numerous ebook sites. Kobo, ebook mall, Inkterra. Again, all the major sites, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. Go there. Very easy to navigate. www.robertwsullivan.iv.com.
You heard the man. Go to the website, buy the books, support what Robert's doing because, man, once you buy one of these books, you kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit. And you're not going to look at movies the same, like the same with me. When we first interviewed Robert, I was thinking, really, Robert? Cinema Symbolism? Okay, let's talk about it. It really opened my eyes to it. Now, even when I go and watch a movie, I go, I know what that means. I know exactly what that means just from reading the book. So it's a really, really cool read. And everyone that buys a book will enjoy it and definitely really enjoy it. But you really got to start in the beginning, in my opinion, and you got to get the Royal Ark of Enoch. That was also a great read. Definitely, if you get this one, get all of them, but make sure you start with that Royal Ark of Enoch. That really kind of sets the stage for what Robert's doing and what he's talking about, because it fills in a lot of those gaps as well as you're moving forward into the movies, because it harkens back to that book of Enoch that really was so influential. I mean, more influential than I ever realized over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like I said, all three books, Royal Arch of Enoch, Cinema Symbolism, Cinema Symbolism 2, all readily available. You can pick them up. Like I said, the ebooks are always $10 because of the length. You're dealing with when the Royal Arch and Cinema Symbolism 2 are over 600 pages. I could tell you when you're dealing with books that length, you're into a whole new realm when it comes to pricing.
Yeah.
But you can get the ebook. That's always $10. You can't go wrong with that. But again, if you want the paperback, you can get it. I mean, believe me when I tell you, my royalty on that is modest. Like I said, when you're dealing with books 600 pages long or more, you're into a whole new pricing realm. So at any rate, you want to start with Freemasonry and Masonic history, by all means, check out the Royal Arch of Enoch. If you're interested in movie symbolism, Cinema Symbolism 2, Cinema Symbolism, the original, and I will soon be releasing my first work of fiction called A Pact with the Devil. I'm really excited about this. Maybe we'll do a show on that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Love to do a show on that. Have you back on and shift gears and go into your fiction work. And love to give it a read and have you back on the show. And, of course, always a show goes by so fast, especially when we have great guests like Robert on. And we're at the end of another show, but we definitely want to thank everybody for making After Hours AM Deeper Cuts, After Hours AM, the Criminal Code, and After Hours AM, the Thursday show, the original. Some of the hottest radio out there right now. We cannot thank you guys enough. You are tearing it up over their iHeartRadio. You're tearing it up over Dark Matter Radio. You're definitely giving the listens and giving us great feedback. But until next time, take care of each other, love each other. But tomorrow night, we talk about the Unabomber. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear that one tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, or Central rather, 9 p.m. Eastern right here. You're going to hear all about the Unabomber tomorrow night with Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM, and please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.